listen up, y'all. It's the queen of automation, Meg and Donnelly, here to give you inspiration. Founders and business owners gather round. I'ma show you how to build systems that'll astound. Streamline your processes, no need.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Queen of Automation podcast, where we talk about why technology is only good when it works and how I help you make it work. This is going to be a really fantastic episode. I'm very excited to introduce everyone to Hugh Meyer because he is a finance guy, which is so funny that I'm having a finance guy on an operations show, right? But he is so outside of the normal finance, like when you think of your stereotypical kind of like stiff finance number guy. That is so not Hugh. I can't wait for you to introduce yourself and tell everybody where you're calling from and just give everybody your background and tell us all about Hugh Meyer, please.
Well, Megan, it's an honor to be here today. I really appreciate it. Obviously, huge fan of what you're doing, and again, grateful to be here. So my name is Hugh Meyer, and I'm originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Went to school in upstate New York. I spent about 3 or 4 years in New York City on Wall Street.
Wall Street.
Yes, which is a very different place now. So I've spent the first 15 or so years of my career in the stodgy institutional finance world, and realized after spending 15 years in that world that I didn't want to spend another 15 years.
You didn't want to die there?
No. So in between that, I did move to Los Angeles, California, where I've spent the last 20 years, I guess, planting roots, as we would say. I have a lovely wife and 3 teenage boys now, which is always scary to say. 2 are going to be driving soon. But I was saying, so I spent the first 15 years of my career in a very, call it tight, inside the box, company line way of thinking, and realized that I did not want to spend another minute more in that world for a myriad of reasons, mostly because I didn't think it was the best place to grow a business or support my clients for the long run. And thankfully, through a network that I've built over many years, a great friend of mine helped connect me to the group I'm with now, Eyeline Wealth Partners, which was actually established in 1976.
Wow.
Which is really cool. It's a family-run financial advisory firm where we work with business owners, entrepreneurs, and real estate owners to provide more clarity in their life of where they want to go. And like I said, it's been a breath of fresh air to be where I've been for the last, hard to believe, it's 5 years now. I work with an amazing group, very supportive, endless resources. I always can go to someone for help. And it's also given me the ability to, explore technology. And I'm sure a lot of what we'll cover today, having the freedom to really make my business and the experience I have with clients more efficient. And I don't think I would have been able to do that. Well, I know I wouldn't have been able to do that where I was working only 5 years ago.
Right. Systems, and they would have had regulations and very rigid IT structures. And not that IT structure is bad. You should still have structure.
Yes.
First, I have to say, how did you not know? And maybe I did, and I forgot because ADHD brain, right? Like the squirrel distracted me. I didn't know you had 3 teenage boys. I have 3 teenage boys.
Well, I didn't know that either. So
15 and 19. How old are your boys?
So they were very close. So 17, 16, and 14.
I don't know how I missed this because I'm sure shit you've talked about it before, right? Like I know, and I must have just either not been paying attention or in the zone or something. Well, so you're feeling my pain. Got it. Cool.
Yes. Well, we have more to talk about.
I will be messaging you, and yeah, we've got lots of stories. Different show.
Yes.
We'll find a different show to podcast about that. Man, I tell you, I knew you came from Wall Street. And for all of you listening who are listening and not watching the video, we are air quoting Wall Street because in our brand built community, that's kind of been our inside joke that Wall Street, I didn't realize you were there for 15 years. So that's pretty crazy. So that's a long time to wear a suit and tie and dress shoes and And like, was this like actually downtown? Like you were in the thick of it, New York City? Like,
It was for the first, so I lived when I was in New York, which was between 1999 and 2004. So five
yeah,
years. It definitely was that kind of environment with suit and tie and getting on the subway, which, at that point in time, you don't know what you don't know. I
you're in
did
it for the
enjoy
money.
that. I did enjoy that life. I know that it definitely changed when the financial crisis hit in 2008.
Yeah,
Um, you know, Going to work for then at the time, which was Wells Fargo, a super sized institution that, then went through their own issues with Congress and the media because of,
yeah,
doing wrong by clients,
right.
essentially. Very wrong. And that was the point in time where it hit me that, when I actually had clients of my own calling me and saying, hey, I saw, you guys are in the New York Times, you're on TV, what's going on? It's not that we're not unsure about
Right.
you, but clearly we're unsure about your organization. And that was really an oh shit moment for me because I realized that this kind of thing was never going to go away because institutional finance is
Yeah.
not a very friendly place. These institutions are in it to make money for their shareholders and
Yep.
themselves.
They have to report to
Um,
a board, right? Like a board of executives. So they're reporting to the board. They have to give the board certain numbers. They have to meet their quotas, if you will.
all of the above. And the more things change, the more they stay the same. I think most people at this point in time realize all this. Like there's nothing that'll surprise, you or I or someone on the street about something that a bank just did or not. And
Yeah.
I think that's why you know, you've seen so much investment in outside, financial institutions, if you will, the non-traditional path, because they're trying to build trust, right? I mean, no
Yep.
matter what business we're in, if we're not building trust, you're not in business.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. I want to talk about before we jump into the operations side of things, because I have like as you were talking, I have so many questions now that I want to ask. But I want to talk about how your life has changed from like again, we're gonna use air quotes, work-life balance, because I don't like that term, work-life balance. It's all just life. We have one life. You can't separate it. You're either working on personal things or you're working on business things, or I mean it's one life, and how you choose to spend your time is how you choose to spend your time. So I would be love to hear the two sides of the coin, right? Because I can't imagine that you've had much of a personal life when you were working those 15 years, right? I mean, those, from what I've heard from many of you that have been on Wall Street, the hours were crap, and you were, kind of slave to the man, if you will. Those were the hours you worked because those were the hours they expected you to be there. And now, a wife, three kids. What has that done? Like taking the leap and deciding I'm gonna be an independent contractor. Like, what has that done for your lifestyle?
great question. Wow, that question could be a podcast in itself.
Yeah,
So I think I had to go through just getting a drink of water.
no worries.
It was definitely a lot of soul searching because not only preceding my move to where I am now was there this imbalance as we talk about is so unhealthy, but it was not making me such a great person either. It was definitely impacting my life at home, my energy levels, all the above, none of which are good for the long run. I mean, all of them will eventually get you. We all talk about burnout. Why do we even want to get to that point, right? Like, what's all the working hard? What does all that mean if it's affecting everything that actually means more in your life, which is your family, obviously, number one, and your own health? How are you going to be around to keep doing the things you love to do if you're not taking care of yourself? So for me, making this move has been, not just a game changer for my career, call it, but for my own personal existence.
Your lifestyle,
Re-
yeah, right?
Realizing, because it took me a long time, and I do talk about this within our community. I talk about on LinkedIn that
Yeah.
even I'm 48. it's taken me most of my life to figure it out, how to find called stillness, figure out how to really maximize the time I have during the day. Because as you know, 3 kids, a wife, a business to run, you have no choice. You have to figure out, how am I going to take the best care of myself so I can get the best out of myself every day? What does that mean? How do I do that? For me, time blocking has been a massive part of that, because without it, I don't know what now at this point, I don't know what I would do. So, every day, I don't like to be rigid per se, but having a schedule of, when I get up, you know, not getting on a screen right away, doing my stretching, doing my breathing, doing these things every day religiously, and then jumping into my day. But having 3 to 4 hours of really deep work,
Yep.
typically to start the day, that to me is a non-negotiable. I need to be not buried, but inside of my work without disruption, because those are the hours of the day where are probably at our best.
Yep.
And just having that structure of when I know I need to do things on a daily basis during certain blocks of time, and not only that, but calendaring off time, whether it's to go out, take a walk, which I do now. I started doing that 2 years ago. I just literally walk outside my office building. I
Yep.
walk for 15 minutes, and then I come back to my office and I'll usually meditate for 10 minutes or so. So, figuring out, and that took me a long time to do that too. You have to take the best care of yourself.
Yeah.
You really do. I mean, we all say it, but do we really practice doing it?
We have to mean it. We have to mean it. We have to do it. You have to rip the Band-Aid off and you just have to do it. If you keep saying, I'm going to do it tomorrow, you're never going to do it. Ever.
No, you won't. And
You
I
led
was
us right
guilty.
into the conversation about systems and processes, though, because this is why I always start these conversations with the, build a lifestyle conversation, because what he was just talking about, everything he just said is a system. So when people automatically, yes, I'm the queen of automation. I love technology, right? We know that. But what people don't realize is I talk about the other side of it, right? And you hear it because you're in the brand belt community with me all the time. So it doesn't have to be software, right? Like, it doesn't have to be software related to be a system to help you run your business better, to help you manage your life better. There just needs to be a system in place, which could be your brain. It could be a notepad. It could be blocking off time. It's all connected. It's all connected. So when you're talking about, like, and even the mindset, right? The mindset stuff, like, you have to train and create a habit of walking, right? You had to do that. Your mind, when it's doing these things, is building a system. That's what a habit is. It's your brain's system, right? Like, there's all these, so it's intertwined into everything that we do. So when we start talking about systems and processes and technology, when you start talking about blocking off time and you start talking about, well, I'm going to block off time and then I'm going to use system notifications with my whatever software system, then you start weaving in, where automation and technology can come in and just make that bigger, faster, and stronger, right? And I can't wait to hear you, because you are a tech guy, which is awesome to me. And I can't even tell you, when I talked to our friend Josh McLean, I talked to him a while ago. I don't even remember, Andrea could correct me, but he was on the podcast. I don't remember what episode he was now. Sorry, Josh. And we talked about how, like, antiquated, like you were saying, banks, like, they've changed so much, but they haven't really. How antiquated the technology and systems and processes are in the banking industry. It's still so old school. It is so old school because they've got it so over-regulated. And I wouldn't maybe say over-regulated because, you're dealing with my money. So I want you to be protective, obviously. But they haven't changed the way they do things and manage things. It just baffles me. So I can't wait. I want you to tell us all about how, okay, so you're coming from this system, like or this industry, like you said, where well, they've changed, but they haven't really. And now you're in a smaller individual kind of like company that's out here on its own. Like, what do you guys get to do pretty much kind of whatever you want, right? But you still have to abide by certain rules in the finance world, right? Like, I know there's regulations and stuff like that. But how are you using, like, how is it different for you now? Because you can actually use technology to help you, right? Like, you can actually use automation to help you, whereas before you weren't allowed to do anything.
Yes. It's a polar opposite world. There's no question. Yeah,
Mind baffling.
clearly we
Mind baffling.
clearly there's always regulation, and we're actually, even though we're not a financial institution per se, we are held to a higher standard. So we all have to be licensed as a fiduciary, which is not necessarily the same as you'll find in traditional banking institutions. But yeah, they will never get out of their own way. And that's why I'm happy to be where I am, because we will have, and we have these discussions probably more often than not, where someone within our group, usually it's my partner, John, who's also kind of a tech geek like me, will discover some new
Right?
because
Always an app.
it's truly endless, and sometimes it's overwhelming when you see the amount of technology that is actually out there and available to people like ourselves who are trying to give our clients the best experience possible, the most efficient experience possible, have the most information at their fingertips with ease as possible. But that also starts with, what are we doing internally? And about a couple of years ago, we actually started to, listen, it's part of our business practices. We always have to figure out how to get better as a group, right? How do we make our processes internally more efficient? Because if we're not, then obviously our clients are the ones that are being impacted. They're the ones that are supporting what we're doing. So we came across call it an organizational tech tool called ClickUp. I don't know if you've heard of. So ClickUp, I don't want to bore the audience with the details, but ClickUp is essentially a technology that connects all of us within our team as far as operationally, kind of where things are along the process, right? If we're onboarding a client, we have a system that, points are being checked along the way. There's people that are responsible. And while that seems kind of obvious for, any business for that matter, because it's a tool that any business can use, but it's very detailed as far as how you can build it out. We continue to try to figure out more ways to use it.
It's 100% customizable for sure. It's a great tool because you can do pretty much whatever you want with it. It's a really fantastic tool. So guys, it's a like CRM, project management, like all in one type of system, kind of like it's similar to Airtable. It's a competitor. Yes. Direct competitor with Airtable,
which we used.
Different. Yeah, Airtable's amazing. I love Airtable as well. But I love ClickUp's project management side that Airtable doesn't necessarily have. It's not the same. You'd have to build it out more with Airtable, but they both have some really great automations, and they hook into like every other software you can think of that you want to use, which is really, really cool. So that's awesome. I think and that's what I mean. Like, to me, you guys are so not this stereotypical like finance guys. You're like, oh, there's an app for that. Let's check this out. How can we make? You're thinking about user experience, which your user is your customer. You're thinking about them before you're thinking about your own like ease of usability, which is the way that the entire world, every business owner, every business in the world should be thinking. If it takes you 5 more minutes to do something, but it takes 5 minutes less for your customer to do something, do that. Because the customer's the one paying you money. The customer's the one keeping your doors open. They're the ones you want happy. Yeah, it may be a little bit more annoying for you in the beginning, but it's going to even out because you're going to have these customers that are going to refer you to everyone and their mother down the road, right? It's amazing to hear you talk about it, but I cut you off. So continue, like, because ClickUp is a very cool
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's again, it's really to your point. It's the actual tool is it's endless as far as how you can build it out, capabilities. I mean, it's great for reminders. It's just like I have a, I personally will have a program to remind me to do certain tasks, schedule, appointments with clients, quarterly, whatever meetings. But it's just these things are in place. So we don't have to sit and spend that time that we could be using again. We always forget, like, we just saved, like, to your point, you just saved time. Maybe you
Yeah.
spent 3 minutes here, but now maybe we've leveraged it into 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes more time
Yes.
on things that are even more critical, right?
Yeah.
And that's
5 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day builds up. You're like, oh, it only takes me 5 minutes, but it takes you 5 minutes at the same time every day to do the same task. And if you have to do that task 12 times, 12 times five, and then you add it to 7 days a week, and boom, that is something that should be automated, which is really, really cool because the the sooner you can realize how to put those things in place and get the time back is I don't even know. Like it's kind of mind blowing that people are still doing some of these tasks manually, like not having a system notify you to do the task or, you know, we're all human. We're all busy. We forget things. Let the technology remind you. I mean, why try to remember everything? I mean, you're in the same boat I am. I have three teenage boys. I have my husband. I have myself. I have Brandbilt. I have my business. I don't remember. There's no way I'm going to remember everything. This is why I have project manager. I have specifically a person is my system because I need to wrangle it all together and try to figure out what the heck I missed during the day. Like, okay, what did I forget to do today? So it's mind-blowing to me how people can function without some sort of notification or project management tool in their lives, even if it is just time blocking. I'm curious, so you use it, you talked about like the process of onboarding, which is, I was so thrilled to hear you say that because it is one of the things that I think small businesses forget about more often than you would think. They forget about onboarding, right? And how important it is. Your onboarding process, your onboarding of a customer can make or break your relationship with that person. If they have a
yes,
horrible onboarding experience, you're probably going to lose them sooner than later. It's just, I mean, it's just the truth, right? But if you figure out the steps that you're taking every time with a customer and they're repeatable, and you do that with every single customer, and then you help automate that process to push them through, or even if it's a person, but you have them doing the same tasks every time with a customer to onboard them the right way, your life will be so much easier and your customers will be so much happier. I don't understand why people haven't figured that out yet. It's like this is really important. It's the little stuff that matters to people, right? I mean,
100%. And that's where you come in many cases because like everything, right? It's education, and
absolutely.
and education has many different topics and forms and areas, and that's where I enjoy doing what I'm doing when I'm writing my content. Is it's coming from an educational point of view because I feel like people just don't have the background, right? We don't
Nope,
know what we don't know.
exactly.
Everyone should have access to that information, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't, but that's where we need the resources, people to teach us, by the way, you can use this tool and it's going to do this for you and you're not going to have mistakes and things. To your point about the onboarding, like there is a process in our system where, it goes here, it goes here, it goes here, everything along the way
Yep.
with a responsibility. It's so easy and seamless. Nothing gets missed. And what's even better is when people are writing, when they're writing to you on email, you're so responsive. It's amazing that people don't do it that way, right? It's like, that's what you're here to do. You're here to be responsive and timely and follow up. And there's no excuse to not do that. And if you employ these technologies in
Yeah.
place, your life it's so much easier.
You either have to, I mean, you either have to hire a human, you have to hire a team member like a project manager, somebody who's going to help you do all of that. or you have to have a system in place. And, I've heard all the excuses. It's too expensive. I don't want to maintain it. I don't know how to set it up. There's all these excuses. At the end of the day, they're just excuses. You can find the money, right? Like, you can figure out where the money's going to come from. You can find the money. Money's a tool. You can always get more of it. Find the money, or if you really need to, you go out and you DIY, you start learning how to do it yourself. Like, at the end of the day, not having these things in place is just an excuse. Like, it
And
really
it's
is.
more costly.
There's
That's what
no,
we always,
yeah,
it's 100%. And people, we know a lot of amazing people in our community talk about it all the time.
yeah,
The costs of inaction are way more expensive than the cost of action, and that could be on a myriad of subjects. But yeah, I mean, operationally speaking, whatever the cost is now, first of all, it's going to cost you more in a year because it's invariably, it
yeah,
just costs, things get more expensive. One, just the cost of having a license or whatever it is, but not to mention the time you wasted or not just dealing with that
trying
now
to
to
figure it out.
get the
Yeah,
structure in place now to make your business run even more efficiently to do what it's meant to do.
yeah, yeah. It's a big, I definitely feel it every day that I'm in one of those, I'm in that niche, if you will. I hate that word, industry, where it's either people are gonna, yep, I'm all in, or they're gonna, they're just not gonna do it. And it's so great to hear someone like yourself talk about a group of people and a smaller business that cares about it and is doing it the right way. Because you've seen the difference it makes, right? Like, you've seen the difference, and you've seen how much time you get back, and you get to spend more time with your clients and focusing on them and their needs and what you need to be doing to, make them more money. Since at the end of the day, that's what they want, right? And
Yes.
if you're
Pe-
focused on doing all of the admin crap behind the scenes, you're not focused on what you should be focused on, which is any business. Any business should be like that. Any small business. If you're too busy focusing on the administrative side of your business, then you're losing. You're already losing.
and you're inhibiting
Move on to-
your own growth. You're
Yeah,
stopping, which, that's, we've grown a lot in the last 5, 6 years that I've been here.
yeah,
And yes, it's no question a function of, the great people I work with, but also the ability to realize, we have to let go of this technology, if you will,
yeah,
operationally speaking, and use this, click up as an example. There's others, because the technology just keeps evolving. I'll
yep.
have to send you this kind of insane graphic that somebody created, and just of finance apps,
Oh, jeez.
because we were looking at it and trying to like dissect it to figure out, well, what are we missing?
Yeah,
And it was really overwhelming, but it's like, well, how do we not spend some time
yeah.
figuring out, are
Remotely
these
it,
things
right?
applicable to our business? And if they are, we better, because it's, listen, we're all in
I
competitive
will.
businesses. And if we're not on the edge of that, we're only shooting ourselves in the foot.
I agree. And I'll give you a tip. This is what I do, because I am like such a tech nerd, right? Like, I mean, like, my team is like, we stop, like, because I'm like, oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. Let's put that. And they're like, stop, like, stop it. We don't need that. And what I do is I have this, I call it my word vomit list, which is really gross, but whatever. That's what it is. And it's all of like the off the cuff ADHD, like, swirl things that I think of. There's like, I have this massive document. It's probably like 80 pages long. I'm not even kidding you. And it's every new technology that I think is like really cool, but I don't have a use for it. It goes on the list. And, or like an idea or some sort of system or process or something that I think would make our lives better, but I don't really have a use for it. It goes on the list. And then what I do every, like, it's just so bad, like Friday afternoon, because I usually only work till noon on Fridays. Like, we really try to do a 4-day work week. That's the goal, right? And so afternoon on Fridays, I open up that list and I sit on my couch and I go through and I pick some technologies off of there and I go sign up for the free trial, which again is why my inbox will never be inbox zero. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago in Breadville. I sign up for the free trial and I just monkey around with it. And then I figure out if there's some way that I can use it, some way I can implement it into my customers, then like, or give it to somebody. I don't know, like whatever. It's such a waste of time, but it's so much fun. And honestly, for me, that is more fun to me than sitting and watching Netflix. Like I just, because I don't necessarily care that much about TV and the news is awful. So why watch that? I mean,
Agreed.
so, so anyway, so it's a really great idea though, because then it gives your brain the ability to be creative, right? Like if you take that list of apps, go put it out there, put it in a giant list and just one afternoon, maybe just take one of them and go, doesn't mean you have to keep it, but it kind of gives your brain some creativity to think outside of the box, right? And like, this is kind of fun. I wonder what I could do with this. I mean, obviously I would say maybe 70% of them, maybe 80%, 70% of them I'm like, yeah, then this is like, I'm never going to use this.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
ever. I'm just going to not use this. But it's a fun time. If you're a nerd, it's a fun time.
It is. And like to your point, you can make the time to
Yeah.
explore one a week,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
whatever that number is, but just make that time because you never know, it could actually be
Yeah.
applicable to what you're doing or improve your processes or what have you. And it was worth that time.
I'm pretty
And
sure I'll
yeah,
be
there's,
gone before I get through the list, but
yeah,
but you know what? It's just a thing I do. Well, this has been really, really exciting. Before we sign off, I want you to tell everybody where they can find you because I absolutely want everybody to go follow you on LinkedIn because your content is awesome. It makes me
thank
laugh.
you.
It's great.
I'm grateful.
It's you are my go-to finance guy because if you can make me laugh while you're talking about math, which I absolutely hate, then we're good. I would like to pay everybody in the world to math for me so that I don't ever have to do it again. So that's kind of how I feel about math in numbers. I love data, but I hate math, which is really weird, right?
That's
But
fair.
anyway, tell people where they can find you, and then we'll also drop it in the show notes so that people can click the link and go find you.
Well, thank you again, Megan. It's awesome to spend time with you. I'm grateful for it and excited to keep following you and learning because that's how we get better. So yeah, thank you again. So you can find me. I'm on LinkedIn probably more than I want to admit,
Like we
but
are, right?
that's the primary place where I write my content. I have a newsletter called Financial Blueprints, which comes out every Saturday, which is essentially just a longer form of my content of things that I discuss during the week. Again, you can sign up on LinkedIn for that. And I write 7 days a week. I'm talking about tax and financial planning. I try to do it with some edge. As Megan noted, I try to also, I have to put the humor in. I'm running out of my chances to keep using the Seinfeld write-off episode, but it's just too good.
Oh
It's
man.
the best. I did actually do a Jerry Maguire today. So yeah, I try to keep it light, occasional, have to poke fun. And then every now and again, I will, I will toe the line and write
Yeah,
posts on why I left where I left. So
exactly.
people know
I'll
why,
try
where I
to
am
put them in
now.
link too because those posts are awesome too, though, and they're
Thank
good
you.
in link because they're good conversation starters. Because when you watch the comments after you write one of those posts, you see like everybody popping up. Oh, like this happened to me too, and this happened to me too, and then it kind of starts the trickle down theory of relationship building because you find all these other people that are commiserating with you.
Yes, yes.
Misery loves company.
And I'm grateful for the opportunity to do it. And it's an amazing group and network. So, yeah, well,
All right,
thank you
guys. So,
again.
yeah, go check out Hugh Meyer on LinkedIn. We'll drop all of his information in the show notes. And that is the wrap for today. Remember, technology is only good when it works, and we will see you next week. Bye, everybody.